Boatworks and run into a couple of old friends and great guys to talk diesel engines with on season 4 of Bullwalks and Bull Dust. Looking forward to getting you guys up into the Bessanzoni helm chair from Janico, and let's chat about it all. Well, hello there and welcome to Season 4 of Bullwalks and Bull Dust. I'm Tom Barry-Cotter from Fireblade Marine. Got my good friend John Curnow here and Wally Tench. And we've got some very exciting guests here today from Scania, Australia, and that's André and Jason Rendle. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
You're most welcome. Welcome to be here. So, Johnny, did you want to kick off with the first questions? Or
Yeah, sure. I think what we might just sort of do is talk about the fact that, oils ain't oils and diesels ain't diesels. To quote Sol, a very, very ancient ad. But I think the really important thing is once upon a time, diesels were heavy and they were industrial and so forth. But a little while ago, we had a situation where the Europeans arrived and they brought lighter units, high speed, more economical, and greater power to weight, which is a fantastic thing. That sort of trend has continued, and now the model's reversed. It's not so much the American suppliers, it's much more about the European suppliers. Andre, you probably would have seen that change. Can you talk to us a little bit about that sort of rolling dynamic, please?
Yeah, sure. I think fuel consumption was the primary factor into that. So I'm originally from Switzerland, and when I came to Australia 27 years ago, we were paying in Europe about the equivalent of $2.50, $3 a litre of diesel. So that has been the trigger to most of the European company to try to get an engine that was a lot more economical. So no disrespect to our friends in the US, but the price of fuel over there was nowhere near what we were paying. So European were always focused on that. Once we had the first few engines into the market here, and Scania has been here since the 70s, but on the marine side, I think we've really made inroad in the last 25 years, and that was based on fuel consumption for sure.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing now too is that there's a real requirement for a range of horsepower, from exceptional horsepower for very high speed work. And I think probably for me, one of the things that's really noticeable now is states of tune. Same block, but you can walk up and down a horsepower range in a way that hitherto wasn't even known. This is a really great feature. What's brought that about, and what is occurring to make that quite significant often variations in the amount of horsepower delivered?
In the same engine block,
yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think it's all to do with the tune-up of those engines and the fact that as long as we meet the exhaust emission required on that country, we can actually change that. We lucky enough to have a range of engine where we can tune them up and down here. It's only a matter of getting a new program from the factory. We change the ECU program inside, and we've got an engine that can range from this horsepower to nearly double as the original power. So it's big help for us in regards to stock. It's a big help as well in regards to parts, holdings, and so forth. So we're lucky enough to have this opportunity. How long we're going to have it depends on exhaust emission here in Australia, which we're probably going to talk about as well.
Definitely. And Jason, I think one of the other really big things is noise, vibration and harshness has been a key factor in selection of European units that, again, were obviously tailored to motor markets much earlier than other products. Would you like to just sort of walk through noise, vibration and harshness and what that really means? And of course, quite a few of us would love the old DDA, but two strokes no longer available to us. And thank God we're not living in the same environment as that Well, yeah, that environment over there. But could we talk a little bit about noise, vibration, and harshness, and why that is actually now a market determinant when possibly even only a decade ago nobody even knew what it meant?
Absolutely, and something I think we do really well is the smoothness of our engine. You know, our engines, we don't build a huge range of engines, so we're really refined in what we do. We refine an engine probably to the nth degree, and we take it just that little bit further. So noise, vibration, it's actually not something that comes up for us as an issue. It definitely comes up for us in the way people select us for their installations. But it draws back to the efficiency, and you know, we have this great product which is, you know, the V8. All Aussies love a V8. We actually have people chasing a V8 because it's a V8, and sometimes they say things like, "Oh, maybe can we change the exhaust a bit so we can hear it? We'd like to hear our V8. We don't just want to own it and know it's there. We want to be able to feel that and hear that." So commercial market, absolutely, we're looking for as quiet and efficient as we possibly can get. But sometimes we have a pleasure boat customer that wants to show what he's got.
Drill a few holes in the muffler.
Yeah, probably a little more refined than that, but
you do give them an engine note if requested. And as an owner of 3 V8s, I love to hear that. That's great.
And of course, you touched on there the commercial market, and you know, we're a recreational, more centered. This show centered around probably the recreational side of the marine industry, but there's a big commercial component, and obviously Scania trucks and the automotive component of that too. So you know, can you touch on, you know, how that from factory, how these engines, you know, is the technology really widespread across all, or when they do the R&D, are they focused more so on one market than another? So when it comes to something like noise, vibration, harshness, you know, that's obviously something critical for the recreational marine industry, but maybe not as important, say, in the commercial sector.
No, for sure. And I think I can say easily that we at Scania produce about 100,000 engines a year. Most of them will go to the truck and bus market, but it's the same block and same technology going to the marine side, being workboat or pleasure craft. So I think the fact that we can have those engines with similar component, if not exactly the same, so we don't differentiate an oil filter for a truck, a bus, or a marine engine, I think that gives us a really good inroad into having a good engine and a lot of them on the market as well. So it's actually quite beneficial to us on the marine side.
Certainly, the experience that comes, exactly. But also volume, you know, that as we all know what that can do to pricing for components like that.
Absolutely.
You can be thankful filling up your 60-foot flybridge, you know, doing a service on it that using common parts and not something bespoke to the marine industry.
No, that's right. And it means that our maintenance cost and servicing costs are really low, and that's a benefit to us for sure on the sales side, definitely. Yeah.
And I guess that aspect of earth moving and road transport and so forth means that, funnily enough, the parts are in many more locations than other ones, because especially here in Australia, there's a very heavily trucking oriented market. Not that Europe isn't, of course, it's very heavily trucking oriented, but we've got much greater distances.
Exactly.
So if you are using your pleasure craft for those longer range voyages, and should you happen to need something, it's good to know that the truck Scania oil filters just go right on the marine one. And that's a really good feature as well.
So could you take the 13-litre engine, for instance, what would that block and you know, base design, what would that cover, you know, in terms of engines for buses, trucks, the commercial sector? I mean, what range of horsepower does that cover across all sectors? So
on the truck side, you know, I'm a little bit rusty on that. It's been a long time since I've been on the truck, but I think we started about 350, 400 horsepower on the 13-litre, and we go up to about 600 now. And those blocks are the same, depending obviously on the fuel system we've got. We've got PDE or unit injector and common rail engines, but it's the same block for all, and in some case it's the same piston liners and so forth. So it's commonality between all of those markets for sure.
Wow, and that 13 litre, as we know on the recreational side, goes up to 900 horsepower. So that's
correct. Yeah,
that's a big window, and that I'm guessing, for when these power units have to be able to fit. I thought it being a designer and Ops in a big engine room, and we're trying to fit everything in.
It's a small, yeah.
And so as a designer, we're trying to put more accommodation, more storage into the boat, a larger tender garage or something. So you're trying to create as much service access and space to maneuver around and service an engine in an engine room and fit it. But you're also trying to maximize the other value that you can put in the boat. So that is obviously an important factor, is just the actual box dimensions of the engine, but clearly a lot more critical in these other sectors than the recreational marine sector, I'm guessing.
For sure, and I think we can state here that we're going to go even further with the new engine. So we've got the new marine engine being released soon. We hope to have the first of them at Century Cove Boat Show as a release, and that same size block, 13 litre, will go up to 1,000 or over 1,000 horsepower for pleasure.
You almost said the whole number then, didn't you?
Well,
There's the corner be all over us after that point. So a good thing you said over 1,000.
we haven't got the final figures, and it depends on location and exhaust emission again, because we know that on the V8 we got a slightly better horsepower here in Australia for IMO2 compared to the Tier 3 US. So there is always a little bit of difference between the two. I don't want to be too precise on what we're going to get.
This is a quick ad break. And we're back.
I guess on the back of that, so thank you, Dorothy Dix, make sure the invoice is in the mail. It's really interesting because the range of horsepower has helped a lot of manufacturers. Yet, of course, with Scania, we're limited to 1,200, again, depending on where you are in the world, but let's just go with 1,200 at the moment, from the marvellous Di13, which is a highly reliable and highly favoured unit. And if I'm not wrong, the king of the power to weight discussion in that bracket. But we know for a fact that a lot of manufacturers need something in the 15 to 16. And of course, then there's the heavyweight fight out at 2,000 horsepower. Without having the PR department come and running in through the door with the M16s firing away, are we in a situation where we're going to finally see Scania play in any further of the space than they currently do by virtue of tuning from sort of 600 through to 1,200 through the three blocks? Is it a situation where we will finally see a designer being allowed to use a Scania product in a family of vessels that range from maybe sort of 40 feet through to 60, 65 or more?
Yes, you can.
I think the question was so long, he forgot what the answer might be.
Thank you, guys, to Babylon.
In short, are you going to go higher than 1,200 horsepower? Any plans in the future?
We don't know. There is no, at the moment, there is no signs from the factory that we're going to increase the power on the V8. it may be in the card, but we haven't been told any of it. What we know is that 13 liter is going to be even lighter than the current 13 liter. So, the power to weight is going to be even more interesting. And if we can help you with the 65 or 70 footer, we can certainly deliver 3 engine and have a quad even on those if you need more horsepower. But at the moment, we don't know if anything's going to happen with the V8.
No, that's fine. And obviously, there's no signs of a 12 on the way.
No.
I mean, it's already highly refined. It must be just like a race of 1%ers, from here. It's just like small incremental, advances with the technology.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got hybrid and we've got E and we've got other biofuels and all sorts of other things that are all happening in the space. It's a very dynamic space, isn't it? And, diesels have been a bit poo-pooed in a lot of places around the world, but still the power that a diesel puts out with 1 litre of fuel, as we've all sort of discussed on the panel, it is a very, very efficient mode of transportation, a very efficient workhorse and very efficient for recreational boating and very powerful. Does a lot of things really, really well. And if you factor in all the other stuff around some of the other alternatives that are supposedly green, and you look at the bigger picture, you'll find that picture is probably not as green as it's purported to be. But what other things is the factory working on currently?
Am I going to call bull dust on you having a waffling question there?
I'll let you take it.
I think what you're going to see with this new 13 litre, and we know it, but you're going to see the 13 litre stepping on the territory of the V8. There's going to be a decent overlap where people can potentially do something that they would have chosen a bigger engine for in the past. They'll go for the 13 litre because it's capable. But also with that comes the bonuses of the smaller engine. And the new 13 litre, it's lighter, it's stronger, so it's a different kind of block. It's now compressed graphite iron, so it's not just a little bit lighter. It's a lot lighter. But also the exciting part, we have this amazing, I don't want to say market leading, but amazing fuel efficiency that our customers all know about. We're going to be better than that again. So the 16 litre still has its place, but in some sizes and some ranges, people are going to have a choice now, where currently they don't have that choice because we just run out of power at that top end.
And certainly that, as I mentioned before, the box dimension and weight is something that's critical, I think, in the recreational market. And the V orientation of the V8, it's a wide engine. If you're running wing tanks, which a lot of brands are, that can compromise either the fuel capacity or the ability to fit those V8s. So I think that's something, if that can go up higher in horsepower, that opens up a big potential market.
A big potential market. And something Scania do really well is supporting their customers long term. It's not just, this is the new thing, you will fit that because that's what we build. The new engine fits in exactly the same footprint as the current engine. The dimensions are very similar. We're only talking 50 millimeters difference in certain areas, in some cases smaller. And we have some great benefits coming, not everything we can talk about, but some great benefits that will benefit the customers already having a long history with Scania and looking to go into the next thing that Scania provide. So we're very, very lucky as salespeople. We don't have to deliver bad news about sorry, but we're coming to the end of life here. We're like, hey, we've got a new solution, and guess what? Not only will it save you money, it'll save you fuel, blah 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 blah. All the boxes people ask about, we have the tick before we start.
What's really interesting is 10 years ago even, no one talked about torque. Torque was reserved for places like this show. But it's really interesting that torque, is really important. So if we could look at the new 13 litre product, are we in a situation where we're going to be able to deliver comparable torque to certain tunes so that you can spin the big wheels and obviously deliver the final product, which might be power or speed, if you like, directly translated? So before this question goes on any longer, over to you.
Great question. It's very rare, I think, that anybody moving through history creates a product lesser than their previous product. So yes, John, I can definitely confirm power's up in the way of torque, power's up in the way of horsepower. The weight is down, so we're talking better power to weight straight away. Fuel burns down, we're talking longer distances with the same fuel tanks, and that will be proven when we see them here on the water in the commercial world.
Yes.
But yes, we already use this product in the truck world, and along with like a few other upgrades, there is actually amazing fuel economy that we see on the highway right now. We talk about trucks doing Sydney to back on 1 tank of fuel, no need to stop for fuel anymore.
Yeah, incredible. And I guess for me, the other part of all of that is that there's a greater discussion always around a duty load and cycle, and of course rating in terms of is it continuous and so forth. And a lot of people like to pin the throttles. Maybe not in this part of the world where fuel is probably about $2.20 to $2.50 a litre at the waterside Bowser.
Or you've got green ones coming over your bow.
Yeah. Or you've got the big greenies. But I guess in other parts of the world, they're renowned for pushing it flat. So really, where does Scania sit in describing rating, describing duty cycle and load, please?
Or we can go through the rating. So we do have, we start, I suppose, with what we call the workboat, which is ICFN, and it's 100% of the load for 100% of the time. And that's a limit.
100% of the power.
And 100% of the power, absolutely. So that's the basic rating. And then we've got different rating from there up to the pleasure craft, which is obviously not the strongest one. But it's quite, and I don't think we need to go and define each rating, but we've got a really good team, here working with the marine side, and I think they've been really, really good at putting the right engine in the right application, which is really important. We've seen a lot of engine, and I can think of a few where that engine should have never been in that boat and for that application, and that's very important. So we've got a team that understands those rating. They will go to the customer and make sure that the engine we sell is actually correct for what the customer expect. And sometimes it's got to the point where we've got to say, no, that's not the right engine. I think, this old saying about the customer or anybody will remember what you said, will not remember what you said, will not remember what they've seen, but they will remember how you make them feel. We want them to feel okay. And if a customer feels that that's the wrong engine for their boat, it's a long-term burden for us as well, for everybody, not only the customer, but for us as well. We pride ourselves in trying to get the right rating into the right boat, right application.
And there are a lot of people now adjusting their thinking to a larger than what might be anticipated, an engine being detuned down, which of course brings advantages in economy, but you're still carrying a little bit of extra mass by virtue of a larger block than you normally would. But they're even seeing gains in fuel efficiency over a formula that traditionally might not work inside one's brain. I know that you've been working fairly heavily in this space. Is there much more you can add to that discussion at this time?
Well, I think in some cases, and probably not so much on the pleasure craft, but if we talk a little bit about workboat, it's certainly been interesting to see that in some instance we have limited the RPM of those engines only to make sure that the boat is actually working at its optimum speed. And yes, we've got a lot of skippers that are very happy to go to either zero or full stick, and then have to wait 2 or 3 minutes before they can actually dock to the next docking station. So that has been recognized, and we do have monitoring system today that we can help our customers with in saying, look, we could do much better in this instance and potentially use the torque of those engines instead of the RPM. And that has been absolutely amazing in fuel saving.
Obviously, you need the right box and the right, black magic on the propeller end as well. It's all married up with that.
And I'm going to guess is probably something more in the displacement type hull, being that the weight is not as critical on getting that boat up and out of the water, I'm guessing. Because you go and add a bunch of capacity that comes with a bigger engine and a lot more weight. If it's a planing hull, you've got to get that weight out of the water.
Yeah, for sure. But even on planing hull on some of the ferry operation, we've been able to save fuel in doing so. Yeah.
Precision on choosing the engine is probably key to what André is talking about. I've heard the saying, precision beats power every time. Not always the case, but precision's really important when we do the selection and we work with the customer to come up with the right fit. But hey, isn't it nice to also have that power in your back pocket in case you need it as well? That's something we're really lucky to have the option to do, and André touched on the fact that we can increase or decrease the power of the engine, usually at time of install and sea trial, to make sure it's the right fit. So we have that added advantage. That's something we can do for our customers.
Fantastic.
Is there much going on in the retro sort of fitting market, or is this all new build for Scania?
No, definitely not. We work really hard with the retrofit or the repower market, and also there's the customers that long-time Scania customers. It's very rare that we don't have a returning customer when they get to a point and they say it's time for us to give everything a birthday. They clean up the boat and they go for a new set of engines as well. So absolutely, that's big business for us, and we follow that market fairly closely.
Fair enough. Do the Scanias always come in twos, or do they? You can have
absolutely not. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8.
We prefer quads.
8 if you want.
We didn't have enough chairs for you to send 8 people down here today. So.
Another thing, I guess that, and this would follow all markets that you guys service, would be connectivity, data. What are customers asking for? What's Scania working on in terms of how these engines can be more smart in a digital sense?
Great question. I think André started to touch on this before. We have a system that some of our commercial customers use, back-to-base monitoring for all things engine, fuel and operation. We also partner locally with people that offer those same services. Scania is really good at being open information. They don't hide anything from their customers. You've got the right protocol, you plug in, you have the information, there's no secrets. So definitely the back-to-base systems, the monitoring systems, they kind of help our customers refine what works for them perfectly. And André mentioned before how some customers, they're driving the boat too fast, they're arriving at the next ferry pickup point a couple of minutes early, idling the boat there rather than dropping back a couple of hundred RPM, arriving precision on time, and alleviating that extra idling, saving fuel on the journey as well. So definitely that's an option, and there's more than one way to do it.
Yeah, wow. And
sorry, just to interrupt for 1 second. Did I hear Big Brother there? Did I? Is that what we're referring to?
Yes, it is. But it is also a big help if something happened.
Look, preservation of the engine, of course.
Oh, not only that, we've had instance where, there was a problem, whatever it may have been, but then you can actually download that information saying, well, we can see that the throttle has been cut at the right time, and as soon as possible, reverse been engaged, and the skipper has done everything he could to stop the boat on time. So we've seen it on road, we've seen it on buses, on trucks, we've seen it now on marine, where yes, it is Big Brother, but if he explained to the skipper or the driver that can save his bacon some time, because yes, the indicator was on, or etc. Many times those guys are happy to look at that and have a system that
with insurance or whatever it might be.
Exactly.
Big Brother's watching, but Big Brother's your ally in this case.
And so, if you could explain, so where does where is the line drawn of responsibility? Say, from a customer perspective, if I've got a engine, the latest tech in my boat, if it's losing oil pressure or something like that, and I've missed the alarm, is my phone ringing, or is there a message being pinged to the dash, or where is that sort of line at the moment?
It's retrospective data, so it's collected and it's brought back. It's more from a point of view of efficiency and looking at what we've done afterwards. There's There's not an alarm bell that goes off and rings your phone to tell you, hey, your buffers are hanging over the side of the boat. It doesn't work like that. But it's all about chasing the efficiency and the operation excellence.
Yeah. So it's not specifically Wi-Fi or connected per se. This is a plug-in, or you can retrospectively still access.
It is connected, but it goes to a cloud. And
it's looked at later. So it's not monitored per se.
You could have alarm set up.
Yeah.
So there are options for that depending on the system.
Yeah. Geofence alarms as well as speed alarms. Some speed sensitive areas. There's all sorts of things you can set up.
And is this something that Scania's looking to continually evolve and take further? It's a bit like, say, for instance, in the recreational market, is that something where they will try and interface beyond just the engine parameters and into, geo-positioning of the boat itself, or if it's in shallow water, or is this something more very specifically Scania will just strictly stay to engine parameters and things of that nature?
It's available in many formats, but for us, we're concentrating more on the commercial side, and helping our customers be as efficient and precise as they can be. They've all got budgets to work to as well, and if they're working out exactly, or going to a board to say we need this much money to run for this long to do this job, that's probably where we're more suited to.
Where you're focused.
This is a quick ad break.
Yeah.
And we're back.
It'll be interesting to see where the diesel engine ends up over the next few decades. I mean, it'll probably still be here in 50 years' time.
It'll be in most of the boats in Australia. Ours will be.
Yours will be. Scania will be exclusively in every boat in Australia. That's the goal.
Well, I think probably for the last 150,000 years, Australia's been in pretty much the same place. We haven't moved very far. The distances we need to travel haven't changed. So in Australia, we have these huge distances we like to travel as recreational boaters, as commercial boaters, and doing just a simple trip to the Whitsundays. It's a long way, and there's a lot of power required to get the boats there.
And fuel efficiency, reliability, simple systems, all of those things seem to hold true.
Absolutely. All the great things we experience at Scania from the commercial market, all the things our commercial customers love, our leisure customers get to enjoy as well, because our roots are really in the commercial side, and we have leisure engines. Everybody benefits from that refined robustness.
That's right. And the recreation industry gets the benefit from all of the R&D and smarts from making thousands and thousands of engines into big industry and transportation and all of that. So marine reaps the rewards in the recreational space.
Definitely. But talking about 50 years, we do also have our hybrid and our electric option. We have our own battery factory in Sweden. We don't remanufacture or use someone else's battery. It's our own stuff. We build it ourselves. We sell it ourselves. So it all comes from the one single point. Goes along with what we call our e-machine, which is a dedicated electric motor and generator in one. So you run it as a hybrid, like your typical hybrid car, or you can do away with the diesel engine and have an electric propulsion system with onshore charging, depending on duty cycles of customers, that sort of thing. It's also going to be available for the marine pleasure market. Probably commercial is where we'll look at it first, you know, those cross-river ferry operations and lots of small, quick, short runs rather than one continuous long run like the coast of Australia.
I was going to say, so, you know, the hybrid sort of arrangement in a recreational boat, like, is this more focused towards green zones and marinas and quiet mode, or is this something that would be a genuine power assist that would, you know, run concurrently with the combustion engine? You know, is it going to be developed in that way? Is the battery storage and technology going to be there for that, or is this more
Well, it depends what the customer wants, really. Yeah. I could think of, you know, a customer wanted a pleasure craft and be very happy to go around the reef on batteries doing 6 knots instead of having a diesel engine and noise, or while watching, or lots of operation where you'll be very keen to have a very silent mode.
Yes.
So once the system is developed and in place, I think it can be used for so many different options, really. But it is definitely in some market to, you know, get out of the marina, because we hear about marina who don't want to see diesel engine and hear diesel engine. So that could be an option. And then depending on the battery size, the same machine could be used for up to a few hours of silent mode.
Yep. That would definitely help the NBH. Yeah.
There'd definitely be an advantage there. But I mean, I guess one of the other really the important things that comes out of all of this technology, some brands are making a very large song and dance out of migrating everybody into a much more automotive style of experience, and whether that'll end up with, you know, cars going down the road with people playing cards and nobody's actually driving it, we'll find out. But assisted docking or complete docking, variations thereof, and including, of course, assisted navigation, is all going on at a very, very fast rate. Possibly Scania doesn't seem to be making as much noise as other brands about it. Can you elaborate on where Scania is at with all of these electronic aids?
It's very simple for us. We are an engine builder. We build amazing engines. All our R&D, everything goes into making that the best engine there possibly could be. So what we do at a local level is we open up our CAN, we open up our engine information. The engine can be completely controlled by pretty much any system the customer chooses. So any of those brands out there that have a docking system, automated driving system, and it's all totally available to plug in and run on those engines. There's no, you must use this, you can't use this. We're an open book as far as CAN communication, and if somebody can find a way to put it together, we can work with those people.
Keep in mind, Toyota just got rid of all its, you know, media interface out of their cars just to run the Apple CarPlay. There's nothing wrong with running a third-party system that just integrates in with something that works very well. So I think that's a great, you know, position that Scania's taken.
And Tom, third party isn't really third party anymore. You know, the manufacturers generally work really well together anymore. There's not much of this goes on these days. We work together pretty much from the beginning of the projects, and they say, what can you do? This is what we can do. Customer, this is what we can offer.
Yeah, but like you say, you know, it's an engine. You guys are an engine company focused on engine. I think there's nothing wrong with focusing on just what your core purpose is. Yeah, that's a good answer. Really good answer. Yeah.
Oh, terrific! Terrific answer.
So, jump in the time machine 50 years from now. I mean, you know, we've mentioned sort of connectivity, some of these integrated systems, hybrid. You know, what else? What are we looking at down the road from now? Is there biofuels? Like, you know, where's the
well, biofuel is here. We can, on most of our commercial engine working with PDE, you can use 100% biodiesel today. The only restriction is really the fact that it's quite expensive for the customer, and we don't seem to see the same rebate from the conventional diesel. But we had customer already working and using biodiesel. It seems that the engine is not suffering from anything. In some ways, we've seen power being increased because the bang of that biodiesel was actually better than conventional diesel in some cases, not very often, but it happens. The engine doesn't suffer from any problems. We don't have to change anything on it. It's the only thing we require is a fuel line between the fuel tank to the engine that comply with biodiesel. Apart from that, no changes for us. A little bit of oil sample to make sure that we have probably a little bit of a shorter service interval. But apart from that, that engine works absolutely fine. So we don't have any restriction there. There is probably a lot of talk and research at the factory on alternative fuel as well. But again, this is quite secret, and Scania has been like that for many, many years. We hear about it when it's about to be released, not before. So we don't make any promise or anything before it's actually happening.
And I imagine a company the size of Scania, they're not sitting around waiting to hear. They're pretty tapped into probably where things are going to be, down the road as well. So, that's where their development will obviously sort of follow, where those technologies and probably legislation will drive them. So, is you guys trying to pack more power into a smaller punch, into smaller units and things like that? Is any of this sort of driven from the foresight of how the sort of landscape out there is going to change around what may be cost prohibitive in fuels, like you say, or what might be available, or what sort of restrictions may be put on you? You mentioned the hybrid and green zones and things like that. So can you sort of add to any of that?
I think we're looking at all the options, all of the things you just said. I mean, Scania never been known to sit on their hands and wait for to be overtaken by the competition. We usually at the forefront of fuel savings and so forth. But in some ways, if you look at what happened to the truck side and automotive, it's usually driven by new rules from government, and we've got our own commitment to the planet. So, we are looking at being CO2 neutral by 2050 in the production of engine and on the product we put on the road and out there on the marine side as well. So this is usually what the driving force is what the regulator is going to ask for. And, who would have thought that we could have engine with Euro 6 on the road burning so little fuel per 100 kilometers? It's 10 years ago, we thought that was impossible. But if you give that challenge to the researcher, they actually thrive on trying to find a solution. And so far, Scania has been pretty good with that. So I haven't got a really big crystal ball on what's happening in 20 years or 50 years, but I think Scania will still be at the forefront of that market for sure.
Something we do see though, Tom, is, with our new hybrid system, the opportunity to run a single engine where a twin engine used to be the choice. We can run that single engine through our e-machine, which generates as much power as it can use. And so charging a lithium system or running directly from the e-machine to run electric drive is now a possibility with a single engine as well. So, I guess if you put into layman's terms, if you have a 250 kilowatt battery pack and you have a 250 kilowatt e-machine, you're talking about a full charge in an hour.
Wow. Incredible. Yeah.
And is that going solid state as well, this battery technology? Or
we're actually not talking everything about our new batteries yet, and we have two battery companies actually within the company, both Scania produced, Scania made. One's called Scania Industrial Batteries, the other is just Scania Batteries. So.
Okay. Well, you said you're an
Space
engine.
a little bit, I have a funny feeling.
I'm sorry?
Watch this space a little bit, I have a funny feeling.
Absolutely.
You said you're an engine company, but you're also a battery company by the sound of it. And you may actually become a biofuel company too. Who would know?
Maybe a bit of a
that
maybe a
happens
bit
as
of
well.
a telling sign of where things are heading.
This is a quick ad break. And we're back.
You know what's really interesting for me? We've got a fantastic designer here in Tom, and we've got a somewhat, coveted European organisation that just every now and then opens up the door a little bit. But it's really, really interesting because it seems to me, after all these fantastic discussions in the last few years, that probably one of the greatest challenges designers are going to have is how to effectively, somewhat, try and future-proof an engine room for adaptability, for change. Because if you go and make an electric boat, the thing's going to be so heavy because of the batteries, right? If you've got hydrogen, good luck, you're going to have to have a cryo plant and all the rest of it. The constraints, whether it's weight, whether it's volume, whether it's combustibility, all of these constraints are absolutely dramatic. So I'd love to ask both the great designer and the somewhat secretive European engine supplier how we get designers to think about what an engine room is now, what you might need to be able to play with, whether that's putting in e-machines eventually and having a subset drive system or combined drive system. Please open it up between all three of you, because wow, there's some experience and some knowledge here.
Well, it's easy, isn't it? I think it's easy. We push the engine 500 mil forward, and you put an e-machine in between.
So some of our designs already
almost future-proof.
The designers come to us.
The designers come to us and say, hey, in 10 years' time, we want to do this with this boat.
What do we need to do?
What do we need to do?
But you've still got to have a storage or a fuel delivery system that attaches to all of that. It's not just as simple as 500 mil forward.
No, but at least it's you can leave the powertrain where it is, meaning the gearbox, the prop, and the shaft, which is probably the hardest part. If the engine bed is prepared to push the engine forward 500 mil, you can put the e-machine in between. Certainly, the challenge will be, do we take the other engine on the other side off and we put batteries in there or whatever? That's optional, and that's something we'll have to look forward in the next few years.
Got it all in the bolt and let it into the main stateroom, Tom.
Well, there's an answer to that as well. The battery is built to a size which is actually equivalent of about a 17 to 20 kVA generator. And if you replace the generator with the battery has an inverter up to 15 kilowatt, which takes the place of needing the generator. If you've got a generator through your engine with an e-machine, 230 kilowatt, you can imagine how many hours you're going to get at 20 kVA to replace that. So it's future-proof with the 500 mil. It's future-proof with replacing the generator with the battery. Of course, it's not going to fit every operation, but that's sort of the mindset we're going. And we don't like to think of ourselves as a somewhat secretive European organisation. We like to think of ourselves.
We like to think of ourselves
as an open book, but only giving you the real information as it's available.
You heard it there, Alexander. You heard it there. So from there now, not mine.
And I think from a design perspective, we've talked a lot about today about like box dimensions, and so a certain boat design as to what that boat needs to do in terms of an expected cruising speed, top speed, what amenities and layout that type of boat needs. That's going to need a certain amount of power. It's going to need a certain amount of fuel or battery storage to have a certain range. So from a design perspective, we just have to know what that power, what it is we're trying to design, and what that power is that's going in there, and what range that needs to be. And then ultimately, we would love as designers, we'd love that box dimension just to keep coming down and be smaller and smaller, because you can have more room. Then you can actually shrink the size of the boat if you need. You can get more in a smaller boat by being more efficient from a space perspective or a volumetric perspective as well, both from fuel and all the power units. So the e-machine sounds like a sort of really great forward first step in that direction, which could sort of shrink that platform whilst creating these sort of greener alternate energy things, for which inevitably it may not be where everyone wants to go, but we may be forced that way. And that probably leads into a question for you guys. We're here in Australia. We're not a big country. We are a big in landmass, but probably from population and our global political weight in the world. And I don't know how you guys sit in terms of the Scania organisation. But so what here in Australia, what sort of say do we have in where we are going? Obviously, we've got sort of very different environment here into how we have to use our product, but we may be forced, just based on where the rest of the world is going, to sort of go in that direction. So can you touch on that?
Yeah, maybe I'll just go back to your initial question, John, about how we're going to work with the designer. And I think no different to what we do today. If we understand what the designer is looking for his own customer, being whatever pleasure craft work boat, and we know the range of that boat and what the customer expect, I think it's a communication between the designer and us on what we can supply to make sure it will work. And we were talking about duty cycle before. I think it's very similar. If we know the customer needs to be on electric power for 2 hours, well, that's up to us to supply the correct size batteries and so forth. But I think communication with the boat designer, naval architect, and so forth is so important. And that's why we've been able already to say to some of those guys, we don't know, but maybe that customer in 5 years will need an e-machine or will ask for an e-machine. Can we have a bed that accommodate at least that and not have the bulkhead in front of the pulley?
Well, so here's a question for both of you then. If we determine that we've got the boat right by putting the donks in the right place and therefore got the proper shaft angle and so on and so on and so forth, right? And the box that all of that fits into, currently with generators and fuel and the main donks and whopping great gearboxes and all the rest of it, if we say that box is that percentage of the boat, as the designer and as the engine builders, you want it to go down. Are you prepared to put a statement on what percentage, and is it going to have to remain the same size, or is it going to go smaller or larger?
Well, I mean, the designers, we can't sit around and wait for Scania to spend 20 years or 10 years and R&D what we're asking for. So we really have to go off, and all marine manufacturers do, we really have to go off what is commercially available. So really we are led by the engine companies into what technology, but there's what you're hearing here. Sometimes we, in the open realm, we can hear a little bit further in advance of maybe some rumors or just some casual conversations of what may be coming. But still to that, there's no guarantee in that, because the R&D might stall or get to a certain point. So there's all the other things. There's legislation and things that compliance things that. It's not a small feat, I imagine, to have an engine be approved and then
battery even more.
Yeah, and just developed to the point to understand it's reliable and it's been tested and it's tried and tested. So yeah, it's to answer that, we're communicating as the as a designer, we're communicating with the engine manufacturer based on what is currently available and
I think legislation, is probably the challenge. So we see here that we would be able to deliver battery today, but AMSA is actually asking for class approval, which we're working on now. But we've had information lately that we're hoping to get that soon. But once we've got the approval on the battery, it's going to open the delivery of those battery to Australia. But at the moment, AMSA is just hiding behind the class approval, which is fine because nobody has got that at the moment, and they just want to be sure that the battery we supply and put on a vessel is safe.
And another sort of interesting sort of dynamic to throw in the mix of this is obviously then what is the market demands of the market and customer needs, and sometimes those market demands don't always align with the foresight of where the engine company is going. They're going there probably correctly, and they need to because they're future-proofing for what is coming. But early adopters, it's often expensive, this technology, and you somewhat, as much as we don't like to admit it, you have to be a bit of not a guinea pig, but you're the first, and it's a bit nerve-wracking to be the first to do something. So that's something where the manufacturers, the boat brands, they have to have a very strong relationship, and that's where the engine companies are doing a great job testing these things in smaller, scenarios in the commercial sector first, really to proof these out, to sell that product or pitch that product to the manufacturers to adopt it, to advertise to the wider market that this is, it's here, it's reliable, and help promote that technology into something that can be saleable.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Euro 5 and Tier 3 are not going to shrink in terms of the areas that applies to. It's only going to grow.
But let me just mention as well, and I think you're absolutely right in what you're saying with the manufacturers, because the product is one side of the thing or the big picture. Now, if you really want to save fuel and you really want to have all the benefit of an electric system and e-machine, you will need infrastructure on the shore. It's not there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not in Australia at the moment. And this is not a critical thing. It's just what it is today. You look at what's happening in Europe, it's completely different. So, if we want to have the benefit of an electrical powertrain on the boat, you need to be able to get that power from shore first.
As
hybrid is fantastic, but it's not the...
And I've said this for years. I've said, the Australian marina industry, basically, I said, we're having a hard time here running people's air conditioning, on their boats, let alone charging, 100 boats in the marina. So,
well, look, if we were to go with IMO Tier 3, which require AdBlue, where do you get AdBlue on today?
And
it's hard.
And that leads back to where I was sort of saying market demand, what's the demand at the moment here in Australia for customers wanting biodiesel? It's cost prohibitive, and but you have to, as an engine manufacturer, it's just a hard position that you guys have to be in. You can't not be developing these type of things. So, that day that it comes in, you'll be glad that these guys have done 25 or 20 years of R&D on it and didn't try and learn it overnight. Yeah.
Well, one thing's never changed, and that, of course, is the better the engine, as in terms of its efficiency. Not only do you get better power out of it, but there's less, particulates and everything leaving the transom, and ultimately, if you burn less litres per nautical mile, that's less. So therefore, if you have the opportunity to be buying the latest generation of engines, whether that's in a new boat or whether that's in a retrofit, you're already ahead. And I think everybody probably needs to remember that first and foremost, rather than all of the crystal ball gazing, because there are, and as we've discussed here today, an enormous number of variables about where it's going, dependent on what happens in so many different areas, from legislation through to supply of materials.
Yeah. Also, John, we've been lucky enough to work with Tom many times. Tom's building the boat for
ultimate efficiency
as an electric boat.
He's
He's not going to be building
He's not going to be building the hull
to look like anything we
recognise as a pleasure boat or a
It's going to
commercial
look
boat.
very
It's
different.
going to look very different
to be optimised for the efficiency
of an electric machine.
Probably a different style.
Probably a different style prop we're not used to seeing on boats like that.
Probably less marble in it. Tom?
Yeah. They look a little different.
There's a hint there. We're going to make them a little lighter.
Yeah. Well, and well, and that future, that's it comes down to sort of a design ideology or from a design eye looking to the future as well. So I would ask like a question sort of relates back to this sort of telescope into the future thing, but like look at the cost of diesel, be it biodiesel or normal diesel and conventional diesel. It's do you see it as something that's going to stay stagnant in price comparative of where it is now, or is it going to be more expensive or be cheaper? Biodiesel, obviously, you've said already is going to become more expensive. Does that lead to sort of a conventional diesel being taxed or having duties placed on it? And I'm not just talking about Australia. I'm looking at this globally. So do you see sort of where that could lead, from, well, I said, it's not really a driver, it's more of a political driver probably than, an actual market driven sort of driver. Like,
and we can't know that. But what we can do is talk about the things we
getting ready to be ready, which for us is that battery and hybrid option in a combination with all the benefits and efficiencies we've spoken about. But we don't see an opportunity, especially in this country, for diesel to disappear.
And we're back.
I see that there's clearly we'll have the need for diesel here in this country. So if there's a sort of a cost rise to it from a design aspect, what is that? Where does that lead? Where did the dominoes fall to? So that's it becomes the engine companies either have to get far more efficient in the power than what we know today, or the cost is going to be a far big disparity from what the cost we already see today to run a diesel engine or a biodiesel engine. So, or the manufacturers, the boat manufacturers, have to either get really efficient with their boats, or we have to slow the boats down to a point. Which may completely change. Maybe it's not about the speed of the journey, but it's about the comfort of the journey. So they're all factors, I think, at play, where I think the marine industry is watching very closely to see what happens, just continually, in the next 10 years, probably. So, and it'll be slow moving, like it's something that you will have time to react to, and it may just slowly evolve to that state. But, definitely. Yeah. I think, yes. And if you wind the clock back, we've already probably been through it, without realizing it too. Just the way that we have all mentioned, and you mentioned how many years ago that the fuel economy became so important, and at a time it probably wasn't a key factor, but so that importance that's placed in it probably just becomes heightened, as the years go down.
It seems, I don't know, if you look at what's happened in the last few years, it seems that it's not necessarily the price of fuel, but it's how much CO2 you emit, and then they could be on tax on that.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it could be one way or the other. It really depends on which. And we do have here one of the director of ADIDA, which has been renamed APSIDA, which is the Australian Power Solution engine importer. So we've created many years ago a company or it was exactly an organization that was lobbying the government for exhaust emission, and now we've changed it into a company, and Jason has been really involved with it in the last 2 years now, or last year at least. And this is, you know, what we see from the government, and trying to make sure that whatever the government decides, it's going to be based on either European emission or US emission, because at some stage Australia was looking at its own exhaust emission, and all manufacturers said that that was impossible. We couldn't, you know, get our factory to make an engine for Australia different to the US, or, you know, with the numbers. So anyway, we all got together, and now Jason is really involved with it. But the government keep pushing the boundary on when they want to do it, and that's going to be one of the driving force to, you know, go to exhaust emission or not.
Well, it's great to know we've got some smart, level-headed people in that forum that can ensure that there may be some common sense and no knee-jerk reactions there. Yeah.
I mean, just quickly though, is there a scenario where the Go Fast boat was actually replaced by the centre console? Have we, you know, is there a chance where we've already seen stuff so that we you know, we're all trying to hypothesize on what might be, but have we already seen it? Because the Go Fast boat was fantastic, but now the centre console's there.
Rephrase that. Is Scania keeping an eye on the outboard market? You know, where and how they're coming up in horsepower, or?
I don't think so.
It's not our game, Tom. We have engines designed for trucks, and then we have engines designed for trucks, opportunity for and then we unlimited cooling being the ocean, opportunity for unlimited cooling being the ocean, and we can get the horsepower duty cycle required by our customers. So as I say, we're extremely refined in our sector. We don't make a lot of engines, but what we do is refine those engines beyond what anyone thinks possible. Absolutely. So yes, we keep an eye on the absolutely. So yes, we keep an eye on the outboard market for all the great things they do, but we can't compete with them. We're on a slightly different level, and yes, as sales guys, we would love to have an option for every single part of the competition, but it's also really nice to just be the best in what you do as well.
Up in horsepower as well, so you just don't let them catch you. Yeah, is what you need to do.
That's what we try to do.
Watch out for that.
That's what we try to do.
1,000 horsepower 13.
Got a bit of a curveball question here, you know, and again from my sort of here in the designer's seat.
That's for you, Jay.
Well, what you know, what pet peeves do engine companies, you know, what would they love to just shake the designers and say, you know, can you stop doing this, or can you do this better? And what are some things that manufacturers and designers can look at doing that just makes the engine company's life a lot more easy?
He's talking about his own designs.
Yeah, just trying.
He's talking about his own designs.
Just trying to get some hints for his next gig. Yeah.
I'll tell you what's really important is serviceability.
I'll tell you what's really important is serviceability of the engines once they're in the boat. But something Scania's been really good at is ease of servicing, putting all the filters and parts either where you can get to them in a common location, or a remote mount option for some of those things. We often get the comment about how well placed our water pumps are, because there's always a gearbox on the back of the engine. Our water pump sits in exactly that spot. There's no trying to get down into a bilge to replace a water pump. Nice
job. Well, look, we've got Swedish designers. We've got Swedish designers that, you know, Sweden's a very cold country. Refining.
Time goes into refining. and we
It's all
reap the
usually
benefits
just
of
after
that.
winter.
Real estate in a
always
boat
usually just
engine
after
room
winter.
is, of course, a premium.
Real estate in a boat
and
engine room is,
things are
of course,
designed
a
within
premium.
as fine a tolerance as possible, so we can maximise living space.
As fine a
within
tolerance
boat
as
and,
possible,
you know, the
so we can
important stuff,
maximise living space
that
within a
sells the
boat, and the important
so
stuff that sells the boat.
If there was ever anything someone in an engine room
If there was ever
prefer,
anything
it's more space.
someone in an
But
engine room
we're in a
would
lucky
prefer,
position. We've
it's
got
more space.
serviceable
But
items in the
we're in a
correct spot.
lucky position. We've got serviceable items in the correct spot.
So you can remember that next time you're designing a boat.
So
You'll be
you can
sitting
remember
there
that
going,
next time you design it about
dress, location, of hatch, ladder.
He'll just say, "What would Jason say?"
I just laid the carpet out.
Well,
for
he'll
you
just
there
say,
to
"What would
that
Jason
you
say?"
need to make the engines easy
just
to
laid the
retrofit so that you can get your retrofit market, sped up a little, but no.
Yeah, the gantry already inside the engine room. You have to lift the blocks and hoik them straight.
Galley, we just need to be able to
Just get them
just
straight.
need a hatch there to get
Go yourself, Tom. We have got to be one of the easiest installs.
Go
there is
yourself,
out
Tom.
there.
We have got to be
you know,
one of the easiest
we keep saying
installs
it,
there
we're
is out
extremely
there.
refined.
We keep saying
lightweight,
we're extremely
efficient, but
refined.
also we're very simple.
Lightweight, efficient, but also
That's why our
We
customers
like
love
simple.
us. We like simple. We're also
that's
simple.
why our
Yeah, we
customers
like
love
simple.
us. We like simple.
Engine room's definitely a
also
glamorous
simple.
place
Yeah,
these
exactly.
days. It used to be pretty rough and ready a few decades ago, but certainly with a lot of the new vessels, I mean, even the finish on the gel coat and everything on the inside of the engine room and the accessibility and just and your beautiful engines, it's certainly a showpiece. And I think people still like lifting the hood, don't they, and having a look at the donks. I mean, we haven't taken that away from people, have we? It's all
Well, guys like us certainly.
yeah, especially if they're V8s.
Beer on my batteries.
Especially if they're V8s and you're drilling
What is inspiring, isn't it, Matt?
If I remember back to my final year at university doing my design degree, and I think the quote went a little something like, the most complex design challenge is creating simplicity. And I think it couldn't be anything more true, because the more time you spend on it, I think humans love to complicate things probably more than they need to. And you look at the best designs, from phones to cars to anything that's out there, they're often the most simple. Yeah, so it's a good philosophy to abide by.
Definitely.
So, John, you can't see the day where somebody is going to go and say, "Look, I've got 20 cells battery. Oh, I've got 24."
Yeah, no, look, I can't see B16 ever replacing V16, for instance. But maybe, but yeah, I'll be probably drinking beer in some other location at that particular point.
If it ever did come to full electric, I think Johnny would be the first customer with the speakers under the dash that pump the engine noise in.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing
That's
you.
a good idea.
Yeah. Porsche's already done that. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think that's definitely. And I look, to be really honest, I'm not sure that boating in the kind of time ranges that we're talking about here, not the 50-year program, but the sort of 10-ish thing, especially when you have to travel distance, is, there's not an extension lead that's long enough. It hasn't been made yet. And you've got a bit of a trip hazard. So we are going to be seeing it in whatever shape and form that takes. And that's probably the crystal ball area, but at least in the case of Scania, you've developed a solution for some moving components, but it's there, and that's, I think, as good as we're going to be able to determine with just so many variables. It really is juggling with running chainsaws, isn't it?
You're right. There's no Bluetooth charging or Wi-Fi charging yet.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what the world brings us.
Yeah. So we'll see. But for now, works for me. Well, you don't even turn the key anymore. It's push the button. And I know I just tapped on the desk, but at least it'll give added effect. There'll be a real bass tenor to that particular drum.
No, well, thank you for joining us on the show, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. It's been good to see you again as well. So, and look forward to maybe these guys could come on as a guest next season.
Well, look, we'd like that. I think the other really big thing to do is not only to thank Janeko for the best and only captain's chair. Jason got to sit in the electric chair, but we've managed to keep him alive this time. Mustn't have put water in the pads. But the other really important thing is, there's the subscribe button there, follow, whatever your particular favourite is, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Insta, Facebook, find it. You can go to BB Dust. Also, please make sure you go to BB Dust to find out about our wonderful Predict Wind competition for the Data Hub Pro. What a prize. Thank you to John and the team for that. Unbelievable. And two good friends just became even better friends. It's getting late in the day. I think we owe them a beer.
Johnny, Wally, it's been an absolute pleasure being on the show today. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Jason. Andre, thank you so much. Got some gifts here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caps. It's been great to have you. It was a good conversation, and we can go to have a couple of beers now, I guess.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on the show. An important show for our industry. I think maybe the first of its kind. Thank you.